Captain Daniel Morrison stood quietly at the back of the Grand Orion Council chamber. The massive room buzzed with the voices of 100 different alien species. Tall, thin Nuor with their blue skin moved gracefully between groups. The reptilian Vrexians, covered in natural armor plates, spoke in loud, harsh tones. The Ezrel, with their metallic skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns, huddled near the high seats of power. No one noticed Daniel. No one ever noticed humans at these meetings. Earth had joined the galactic community only 30 years ago. Compared to species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years, humans were babies. They were seen as weak, soft creatures from a backwater planet. The powerful species of the galaxy barely gave them attention. Daniel watched everything with patient eyes. At 42 years old, with short brown hair going gray at the temples, he didn't look impressive. His simple blue Earth diplomatic corps uniform had none of the flashing lights or moving parts that other species wore. But his eyes missed nothing. "Captain Morrison," a voice called from behind him, still trying to blend into the walls. Daniel turned to see Ambassador Kirks, a Nuor diplomat he had worked with before. Unlike most Nuor, Kirks actually spoke to humans as equals. "Just observing, Ambassador," Daniel replied with a small smile. "Sometimes you learn more when people forget you're in the room." Kirks's large purple eyes blinked slowly. "And what have you learned today, human?" Daniel nodded toward the center of the chamber, where 3 Vrexian generals were arguing with an Azrael scientist. "I've learned that no one wants to talk about the real problem." The real problem was the Scourge. For the past year, reports had come in from the outer systems about entire planets going dark. Something was consuming them, moving steadily inward toward the heart of Council space. The major species argued about how to respond, but nothing was being done. "The Vrexians want to launch a full attack," Daniel said quietly. "The Azrael think we need more research. The Nuar want to set up better warning systems, and nobody is looking at the actual pattern of the attacks." Kirks looked interested. "And you have?" Before Daniel could answer, the chamber lights dimmed. The Grand Council leader, a massive Vrexian named General Draz, stepped onto the speaking platform. "This council meeting will now begin," Draz announced, his voice booming through the room. "First item: the disturbances in the outer systems." For the next hour, species argued back and forth. The Vrexians wanted war fleets. The Azrael suggested new shield technology. The arguments grew heated. Finally, Daniel raised his hand to speak. He waited as others were called on. He kept his hand up as 10. Then 20 representatives shared their views. His arm began to ache. After nearly everyone else had spoken, General Draz finally pointed to Daniel with clear reluctance. "The human representative may speak." Briefly, Daniel stepped forward. The room grew quieter, not out of respect, but because many species were using this moment to check their communication devices or talk among themselves. "The Scourge is not attacking randomly," Daniel said clearly. "If we map the targets, there's a clear pattern showing they're targeting communication relay stations first, then defensive outposts, then population centers. They're cutting off each sector methodically before moving in. This suggests intelligence, not just destruction." General Draz made a sound that in Vrexian culture indicated dismissal. "Humans see patterns where none exist. This is a mindless force of destruction, not a strategic enemy." The Azrael representative added, "Our superior analysis shows no such pattern. Perhaps the human lacks the processing capacity to understand our data." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Daniel kept his face calm, though his hands tightened at his sides. "The motion to increase military patrols in the central systems is approved," General Draz announced, completely ignoring Daniel's input. "This meeting is adjourned." As the representatives filed out, Kirks approached Daniel again. "For what it's worth, I think you might be right." Daniel nodded. "Thanks, but being right doesn't help if no one listens." He looked at his communication device, which showed a message from his ship. "I need to go. The U.S. Horizon is ready for departure." As he walked toward the exit, Daniel made a mental note of everything he had observed. The other species might ignore humans now, but someday they would need to listen. Someday soon, he feared. The U.S. horizon hummed quietly as it moved through space. Captain Daniel Morrison sat in his office, surrounded by star maps and data screens. He rubbed his tired eyes and took another sip of coffee. "You should get some sleep, Captain," said Commander Olivia Grant as she entered the room. Tall with short blonde hair and sharp green eyes, she had been Daniel's friend since their academy days. "Sleep can wait," Daniel replied. "Look at this." He pointed to the main screen where red dots marked Scourge attack locations. "I've added timestamps to each attack. The pattern is even clearer now." Olivia leaned closer. "They're hitting communication stations first, then moving in a spiral pattern inward." "You were right." And no one at the council would listen. Daniel stood up and stretched. "We're heading to Proxima Station for supplies. It's close to where I predict the next attack will be." Olivia frowned. "Are we authorized to investigate?" "We're authorized for a supply run. What we observe while there is our business." Daniel smiled slightly. Sometimes being ignored has advantages. 2 days later, the U.S. horizon approached Proxima Station, a busy trading post at the edge of Council space. The station was built into a large asteroid, with ships of all shapes and sizes docked along its surface. As they approached, Lieutenant Ryan Kelly at the sensor station suddenly called out, "Captain, unidentified ship at Sector 4. Daniel moved quickly to the screen. "Magnify." The image showed a dark, organic-looking vessel moving away from the station. Its surface seemed to pulse and shift like something alive. "That's a Scourge scout ship," Daniel said quietly. "First confirmed sighting. It's heading toward the Bellis system," Olivia reported. "There's a major communication relay there." Daniel made a quick decision. "Follow it, but keep our distance. Passive sensors only." For the next 6 hours, the U.S. horizon trailed the Scourge vessel. They watched as it approached the relay station in the Bellis system, a massive structure that handled communications for 3 sectors. "They're scanning the relay," Ryan reported. "Our systems are picking up strange energy readings." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered and died. Emergency lights came on, bathing the bridge in red. "What happened?" Daniel demanded. Chief Engineer Sam Foster's voice came over the comm. "Some kind of energy pulse hit us, Captain. Main power is down." "The Scourge ship is turning," Olivia warned. "It might have detected us." Daniel thought quickly. "Everyone, survival suits on." "Sam, can you get emergency power to the engines?" "The automated systems are fried," Sam replied. "But we can do it manually. Give me 10 minutes." Throughout the ship, human crew members sprang into action. The temperature dropped rapidly as life support failed, but no one panicked. Humans had trained for emergencies all their lives. In engineering, Sam and his team worked in near darkness, manually rerouting power cables. On the bridge, Olivia calculated their escape route using paper charts when the computers failed. The Scourge vessel approached slowly, its surface now glowing with eerie blue light. "Power restored to engines and basic shields," Sam finally reported. "Everything else is still down." "That's enough," Daniel said. "Get us out of here, maximum speed." The U.S. horizon lurched forward, its engines straining. The Scourge ship followed for a short distance, then turned back toward the relay station. Hours later, with the ship limping back to Council space, Daniel recorded everything they had seen. The crew had survived conditions that would have killed many alien species. The temperature had dropped to near freezing, oxygen levels had fallen to minimum, and they had worked without computer assistance. Conditions that would have incapacitated most Council races. "We need to report this to the Council," Olivia said as they reviewed the data. "They have to take this seriously now." Daniel nodded, but his expression was doubtful. "We'll report it, but I don't expect much. To them, we're still just primitive beings who got lucky." "Then what do we do?" Olivia asked. Daniel looked at the star map, where he had marked the pattern of attacks. We prepare, because whether they believe us or not, the Scourge is coming. 3 weeks after their encounter with the Scourge scout ship, Daniel stood once again in the Orion Council chamber. This time, the mood was different. Panic filled the air as news screens showed terrible images from Azrael Prime. The Scourge had attacked the most advanced world in the Council. The Azrael, with all their technology, had been caught by surprise. Their defense systems had failed within hours. The death count is over 2 million, a shaken Azrael representative reported. Our planetary shields collapsed almost instantly. The Council erupted in shouting. The Phyrexians blamed the Azrael for weak defenses. The Nuer suggested retreating from border worlds. No one offered real help. Daniel sent a private message to Earth Command. Request permission to lead humanitarian mission to Azrael Prime. The reply came quickly. Permission granted. Small fleet only. Primary mission is evacuation of Earth citizens. Daniel knew that there were only a handful of humans on Azrael Prime. This was his chance to do more. 2 days later, 5 human ships, including the U.S. Horizon, arrived at Azrael Prime. The beautiful world, once covered in gleaming cities, now had huge black scars across its surface. Parts of the planet still burned. Scourge forces still in orbit, Olivia reported. 3 large ships on the far side of the planet. Daniel studied the tactical display. They're focused on the capital city. We can slip past them if we approach from the polar region. Human ships had none of the advanced weapons or shields of other Council races, but they had something else. Centuries of war experience that had taught them how to fight when outmatched. Launch our new decoy drones, Daniel ordered. Program them to mimic Phyrexian attack patterns. The small drones shot away from the human fleet, broadcasting signals that made them appear to be powerful Phyrexian warships. As expected, the Scourge vessels moved to intercept what they believed was the greater threat. Now's our chance, Daniel said. Take us down. The human ships landed near a research center where thousands of Azrael had taken shelter. The building was surrounded by smaller Scourge creatures that had landed on the surface. Suit up, Daniel told his crew. We're going out there. Armed with simple projectile weapons, technology most alien species considered primitive, the human teams moved out. They used buildings and natural cover, advancing slowly but steadily toward the research center. When they reached the entrance, they found an Azrael scientist trying to hold the door against the creatures. His metallic skin was dull with exhaustion. You're humans, he said in surprise as Daniel's team cleared the area. Why did you come? To help, Daniel said simply. I'm Captain Morrison. What's your name? I am called Zenith, the scientist replied. Inside are 300 of my people. We thought everyone had abandoned us. Over the next 12 hours, the human teams evacuated the Azrael survivors. They fought off 2 Scourge attacks using tactics that confused the hive mind creatures. The humans split into small groups, attacked from multiple directions, and changed strategies frequently. When the last shuttle was loaded, Daniel found Zenith watching him with new interest. Your species fights differently, the Azrael scientist observed. The Scourge seems unable to predict your actions. Daniel nodded. Humans learned warfare the hard way over thousands of years of fighting each other. We know how to adapt. Perhaps, Zenith said slowly, the Council has underestimated your kind. As they left Azrael Prime, the human fleet faced a final challenge. The 3 massive Scourge ships had discovered the deception and now moved to block their escape. Conventional tactics won't work, Olivia warned. They outnumber and outgun us. Daniel smiled. Then we won't use conventional tactics. Have all ships formed the Artemis pattern. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. For the first time, the other species of the galaxy were about to witness what humans could really do when pushed to the breaking point. The Artemis pattern worked. By having each human ship fly in seemingly random patterns while actually following a complex mathematical sequence, they confused the Scourge vessels. The human fleet escaped with all the Azrael survivors. News of the rescue spread quickly through Council space. For the first time, other species looked at humans with something besides dismissal. 2 weeks later, Daniel sat in a small lab aboard the U.S. Horizon. Across from him, the Azrael scientist Zenith examined brain scans of human crew members. "Fascinating," Zenith said, his metallic fingers tapping on the display. "When exposed to scourge signals, your brains react differently than ours." Daniel looked at the colorful images. "Different how?" "When my people encounter scourge psychic attacks, our thought centers shut down. We freeze in terror." Zenith pointed to the human brain scans. "Your people experience fear, but it activates your decision-making centers rather than paralyzing them." "Fight or flight," Daniel said. "On Earth, creatures that feel fear don't just freeze. They either run or fight back." Olivia entered the lab, carrying data tablets. "Captain, I think we found something important." Together, they reviewed information collected during their encounters with the Scourge. Daniel had noticed a pattern in the energy signatures the Scourge ships released. "They're not just attacking randomly," Daniel explained to Zenith. "They're setting up a communication network. Each conquered planet becomes a relay point. The pattern suggests they're building towards something big." Zenith's eyes widened. "If your theory is correct, they could be planning to connect their entire hive mind across Council space, which would make them nearly unstoppable," Olivia added. Daniel stood up. "We need to present this to the Council immediately." The next day, Daniel stood before the Council again. This time, more representatives paid attention as he explained his theory about the Scourge communication network. "If we disrupt these key points," Daniel said, pointing to a star map, "we could break their coordination. Their strength comes from acting as a single mind. Without that connection, they become confused." For a moment, the chamber was quiet as the alien representatives considered his words. Then Commander Brax, the head of Phyrexian forces, laughed loudly. "The human thinks he understands warfare better than those who have fought among the stars for 1,000 years, Brax said. "The Scourge are mindless destroyers. They have no strategy." Several other representatives joined in the laughter. Daniel kept his face calm, though his hands tightened at his sides. "The evidence is clear," he insisted. "The attack pattern follows a specific communication theory. We can use this knowledge to fight them." "Enough," Brax declared. "The Council will not waste resources on human fantasies. We will increase our defense fleets as planned." As the meeting dissolved into arguments between species, Daniel left the chamber quietly. Outside, he found Zenith waiting. "They will not listen until it is too late," the Azrael scientist said. "Then we'll have to act without them," Daniel replied. Back on the U.S. Horizon, Daniel called a meeting with his senior officers. "Earth Command has given us a new assignment," he told them. "We're to patrol the outer sectors and observe only. No engagement with the Scourge." Olivia frowned. "Just watch as more worlds fall." "Those are our official orders," Daniel said, then lowered his voice. "However, I have a different plan." He activated a secure display showing a small region of space near Scourge territory. "According to our theory, this is a key relay point in their network. If we can place disruption devices here, we might break their communication chain." "That's deep in Scourge space," Ryan pointed out. "A direct violation of orders." Daniel looked at each officer in turn. "I won't order any of you to come. This is volunteer only, and completely off the record." One by one, every officer nodded. "What about help?" Sam asked. "We can't do this alone." "We'll have help," Daniel said. "Zenith has agreed to provide technical assistance, and I have one more call to make." That night, Daniel sent an encrypted message to an unlikely ally, Commander Brax of the Phyrexians. Though the Phyrexian had mocked him publicly, Daniel had noticed something others missed. Brax had studied the human data carefully before dismissing it. In the message, Daniel included one key piece of information he hadn't shared with the Council: evidence that the next major Scourge target would be a Vrexian colony. Within hours, he received a reply. "Human, if you are wrong, I will kill you myself. If you are right, we have much to discuss." The trap was set. Now they needed to spring it. 5 days later, a small human shuttle moved silently through the darkness of space. Inside, Daniel, Olivia, and 4 specialists prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. "We're approaching the relay point," the pilot, Lieutenant Alan Wade, announced. No Scourge ships detected yet. Daniel looked at the small team he had chosen. Each person was an expert in their field. Olivia for tactics, Alan for piloting, Sam for engineering, Dr. Lisa Chen for biology, and Security Chief Joe Martinez for combat. "Remember the plan," Daniel said quietly. "We place the disruptors at these 3 points, then leave immediately. No heroics." In the corner, Zenith worked with Sam on the final adjustments to the disruption devices. The Azrael scientist had risked everything to join this unauthorized mission. "The devices are ready," Zenith reported. "They will transmit false signals that should confuse the Scourge network." Ellen guided the shuttle toward a small asteroid field where they believed a key Scourge communication node was hidden. As they approached, they saw it, a strange organic structure growing across several asteroids, pulsing with eerie blue light. "That's definitely not natural," Lisa said, studying her scanner. "The energy pattern matches what we saw on Azrael Prime." "Beginning approach," Alan said. "Stealth systems at maximum." The shuttle glided between asteroids, moving closer to the alien structure. When they were within range, Sam and Joe put on spacesuits to place the first disruptor. "Be careful," Daniel told them as they prepared to exit the shuttle. "If you feel anything strange in your mind, anything at all, return immediately." The 2 men nodded and moved into the airlock. Daniel watched anxiously on the monitor as Sam and Joe floated toward the alien structure. They'd reached the first target point, and Sam carefully attached the device. "First disruptor in place," Sam reported through the comm. "Moving to second position." They were halfway to the second point when everything went wrong. The structure suddenly pulsed with bright light, and tendrils of energy reached out toward the 2 men. "They've detected us," Olivia shouted. "Scourge ships approaching from Sector 3. Daniel made a quick decision. "Sam, Joe, get back here now. We're aborting the mission." On the screen, he saw Joe push Sam toward the shuttle before a tendril of energy wrapped around his leg. Joe struggled for a moment, then used his emergency thruster to break free. Both men made it back to the shuttle as 3 Scourge ships appeared from behind a large asteroid. "Get us out of here," Daniel ordered as the airlock sealed. Ellen pushed the engines to maximum power, weaving through the asteroid field with incredible skill. The Scourge ships followed, their organic forms shifting and changing as they moved. "The disruption device is active," Zenith reported, "but one isn't enough to break their network." A blast of energy from the lead Scourge ship hit the shuttle, sending everyone crashing against the walls. Emergency lights flashed as systems failed. "Engine damage," Ellen shouted. "We can't outrun them." Daniel moved to the weapons console. "Then we fight. Target their forward sensors." The small shuttle turned to face the much larger Scourge vessels. It was a desperate move, but Daniel had noticed something during previous encounters. The Scourge ships always protected one specific area at their front. "Fire everything we have at that point," he ordered. The shuttle's limited weapons hit the lead ship's sensor cluster. The effect was immediate. The Scourge vessel reeled back, its movements becoming erratic. "Keep firing," Daniel commanded. Suddenly, space lit up with new weapons fire, but not aimed at them. A Vrexian battle cruiser appeared, its massive cannons blazing at the Scourge ships. "Captain," Olivia said in surprise, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vrexian vessel." Commander Brax's face appeared on the screen. "Human, your information was correct. The Scourge attacked our colony exactly when you predicted." His expression was grim but respectful. Now, let us show you how Vrexians fight. As the battle raged around them, Daniel made a crucial discovery. When a Scourge ship was heavily damaged, it released a specific energy pattern, not random, but a distress call filled with pure terror. They're afraid, he realized. The Scourge aren't mindless killers. They're afraid of us. This insight would change everything, if they survived to share it. The damaged human shuttle docked inside the massive Vrexian battle cruiser. Daniel and his team were escorted to the medical bay where doctors treated their injuries. Commander Brax strode into the room, his scaled skin gleaming under the lights. He looked at the humans with new eyes. "Your small ship fought when it should have run," Brax said to Daniel. "Few species would face the Scourge directly with such limited weapons." Daniel winced as a medic treated a burn on his arm. "We had no choice, but we made a discovery worth the risk." Before he could explain further, alarms blared throughout the ship. An officer rushed in. "Commander, urgent news from Council Space. The Scourge has launched attacks in 3 sectors simultaneously. The Council has called an emergency session." Brax's expression darkened. "We must return immediately." Daniel stepped forward. "Take us with you. What we discovered could change everything." Hours later, the Vrexian ship arrived at the Council station. Inside the Great Chamber, panic had taken hold. Representatives shouted over each other as reports of destroyed worlds filled the screens. "We must abandon the outer colonies," the Nuor representative cried. "Pull back to defend our homeworlds." "The Azrael defense line has fallen," another voice reported. "Millions are fleeing toward the core systems." When Daniel and his team entered with Commander Brax, few noticed. They stood at the back of the chamber, watching the chaos. Daniel tried to speak to the council leader, but was brushed aside. He approached different representatives, but none would listen. The fear in the room was too great. Finally, Daniel looked at his team, then at Brax. "I need to be heard." The Vrexian commander studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Do what you must, human." Daniel moved deliberately toward the center of the chamber. He climbed onto the speaking platform, a serious violation of council protocol. Security officers started toward him, but Brax blocked their path. Daniel reached for the emergency broadcast control and activated it. Immediately, the chamber's systems amplified his voice and silenced all other sounds. "Look at us," Daniel said, his voice echoing throughout the hall. Every face turned toward him in shock. "Look at what we've become. Advanced species trembling before an enemy we refuse to understand." He pressed a button on his data pad, projecting images from their mission. The Scourge isn't mindless. It's afraid. Every attack, every movement is driven by fear. Fear of us. Fear of all intelligent life. The chamber grew quiet as Daniel continued. "We've forgotten the most basic lesson of survival. Adapt or perish. Humans have been dismissed as weak, but weakness taught us strength. We survived our predator-filled world not by being the strongest, but by understanding fear and using it." Daniel showed the energy patterns they had recorded. The Scourge communicates through fear. Their entire network runs on it. And that's how we'll defeat them, not with bigger weapons, but by disrupting their fear-based communication. He laid out his plan, explaining how each species' strengths could be used together. The Vrexians' battle prowess, the Azrael's technology, the Nuor's telepathic abilities, and human adaptability. Together, we can break their network. When he finished speaking, the chamber remained silent. Then, surprisingly, Commander Brax stepped forward. "I have seen these humans fight," the mighty Vrexian declared. "With ships that we would consider toys, they hurt the Scourge. With tactics we would never consider, they confused the enemy. I, Commander Brax of the Imperial Vrexian Fleet, stand with the human plan." One by one, other representatives stood in support. The Azrael scientist Zenith spoke of what he had witnessed. Even the Nuor representatives, traditionally cautious, offered their assistance. The council leader looked around the chamber in astonishment, then turned to Daniel. "It seems you have united the council. Human, perhaps we have underestimated your kind all along. Daniel nodded. We'll need to move quickly. The scourge is already adapting. He looked around at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species. But together, we have a chance. For the first time since the scourge appeared, hope filled the council chamber. 3 weeks after Daniel's speech, the United Council forces launched their attack against the scourge. For the first time in galactic history, all major species fought together as one. Daniel stood on the bridge of the Vrexian flagship alongside Commander Brax. The massive view-screen showed hundreds of ships moving into formation. The disruption network is ready, Olivia reported. Azrael technicians have installed the devices on all forward ships. Daniel nodded. And the Noor telepathic shield. Active and holding, Zenith confirmed. It should protect our forces from the Scourge sphere projections. The plan was working. By combining Vrexian military might, Azrael technology, Noor mental abilities, and human tactical thinking, they had created a force unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. As they approached the main Scourge hub, the enemy responded with massive force. Hundreds of organic ships moved to intercept them. They're adapting to our formation, Brax observed as the battle began. Then we adapt faster, Daniel replied. Execute pattern Sigma. The council fleet broke into smaller groups, each changing tactics every few minutes, a strategy Daniel had designed based on Earth's long history of warfare. The Scourge struggled to respond to the constantly changing attack. At the heart of the battle, Daniel led a small, diverse team on a critical mission. Their ship, specially designed with technology from all council races, approached the central Scourge nexus, the core of their communication network. We're in position, Alan announced from the pilot's seat, but their defenses are strong. Daniel looked at his team, human, Vrexian, Azrael, and Noor working side by side. This is our only chance. We need to place the disruptor at the center of their network. The small ship pushed forward through intense fire. Systems failed, the hull breached in several places, but they pressed on. When they reached the nexus, something unexpected happened. The Scourge ships suddenly pulled back, forming a protective circle around the central structure. They're protecting it, Lisa said, studying her readings. The energy patterns show extreme distress. Daniel stared at the central structure. It's not a weapon. It's their collective mind, their heart. In that moment, Daniel made a decision that would change galactic history. Instead of launching the disruptor as planned, he opened a communication channel and sent a simple message, images of peace, cooperation, and coexistence, translated into the Scourge's own energy patterns. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the Scourge ships moved aside, creating a path to the Nexus. "What are you doing?" Brax demanded. "Ending this war the right way," Daniel replied. "We understand fear better than anyone. They're afraid of us, just as we feared them. Someone needs to break the cycle." Their ship approached the Nexus, and Daniel sent more images, the different species of the Council working together, rebuilding worlds, sharing knowledge. The Nexus pulsed with new patterns, responding to Daniel's message. Across the battlefield, Scourge ships stopped attacking. "They're communicating," Zenith said in wonder. Actually communicating, not just reacting. 3 days later, Daniel stood again before the Council. This time, every representative listened with full attention as he explained the historic first contact with the Scourge Collective. "They're not destroyers by nature," he told them. "Their expansion was driven by fear of other intelligent life. When we showed them cooperation was possible, they responded." The Council leader looked at Daniel with new respect. "You have achieved what seemed impossible. The Scourge have withdrawn from our space and opened diplomatic channels." The chamber, once filled with species that barely acknowledged humans, now stood in silent respect. "Captain Morrison," the leader continued, "the Council wishes to create a new position, Human Ambassador to the galactic community. Will you accept?" Daniel looked around at the faces of those who had once dismissed his kind. "I would be honored, but with one condition. I want to serve as the first ambassador to Scourge territory." As murmurs of surprise filled the chamber, Daniel added, "After all, understanding fear, yours and theirs, is the first step toward peace." Throughout the galaxy, the story spread quickly. The humans, once ignored, had changed everything. No species would ever underestimate them again.